I hadn't planned on using this Ruger No1 here, chambered in 270, as my long-range hunting rifle this coming season. But this is going to be my long-range hunting rifle this coming season. So I need to get it ready. And I need to go over this rifle and make sure it's ready for the field. And then I got to thinking, you know, I might as well just come up with a checklist to make sure I don't miss anything, because I'm subject to miss stuff. And I thought this was something that some of you just might enjoy seeing and going over as well. Now, you may have noticed there's no scope on this rifle. So yeah, that's an issue. And that's kind of what prompted this whole thing. I pulled this rifle out of the safe and I shouldered it and looked through the scope, and I just happened to pull the covers off, and I noticed that my scope was canted real bad. It had twisted in the rings. All right, when I bought this rifle used, and it came with a set of Ruger rings that had been lapped, heavily lapped. A lot of lapping had been done, but it worked, or they worked, and it held zero, and I never had a problem out hunting or anything, so I didn't think too much about it. But somehow I just bumped this somewhere along the way and bumped one of the turrets, and it twisted in those rings. Okay, well, that's kind of what prompted this whole thing and wanting to do a checklist and just really go over the rifle, is, you know, to make sure everything's right before I even go to the range to try to zero it. And thankfully I had done that before I went to the range to try to zero it, because had I gotten to the range and then pulled my covers off and looked through the scope and seen, you know, my crosshairs were really canted, okay, I'd have been in trouble then unless I'd just happened to have had a screwdriver with me. So that would have been a wasted range trip, and you know, getting close to season, we don't want wasted range trips. So to fix this problem, I just went ahead and bought some new rings. We're going to take care of this right now. But I think for number one on our checklist, we should just check the scope. Look through the scope, make sure it's clear, make sure, you know, nothing's canted, nothing's moved, and, you know, move the scope with your hand. Make sure it's stable, it's not loose, and you don't have any issues there. So, number one, check the scope. And I'm going to go ahead and put these on and get this scope mounted, and then we'll move on to number two on our checklist. We checked the scope, found a problem, fixed the problem. Now this is secure, it's on here, it's not moving, it's not going to come back to bite me during hunting season. Okay, so what'd be a good number two for our checklist? I'm going to say cleaning the lenses of the scope. And be honest, when was the last time you cleaned the lenses on your scope? And I've got a little microfiber towel here that I use on my camera lenses. So I'm just going to wipe them down. Make sure there's no debris on there before you do it, because you don't want to scratch the lenses. Much better. So what would be a good number three? I'm going to say just go over the rifle. Make sure nothing's loose. You know, the foreend's tight, the stock's tight. Nothing's out of place. I'm going to dry fire it. And we are clear. Make sure the safety's functioning. And we're good. Sling studs are tight. We'll talk about slings later. Touchy subject with me. And if you've got anything on the rifle, take it off. On this particular rifle here, I had this ammo holder on this rifle, and I've had these types on a lot of other rifles with no issues. But this one has got an extremely glossy finish on the stock. Well, where the stitching is on the inside of this ammo holder actually rubbed small scratches into the finish on here. Okay. I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't have pulled this off just to, you know, take a look at the rifle and check everything out. It's nothing permanent. I could go over it with some 4/0 steel wool and it'll polish right out. Very light scratches, but I can see them, and I don't want it to get worse. And I did a review a while back on a Beartooth Products comb raising kit. It's a neoprene comb raising kit, and it's just ideal for stocks like this. The problem for this rifle is I don't need to raise the comb any. I've got the scope mounted so low that I've got a perfect cheek weld as it is. I just really liked having the ammo holder here, it being a single shot. But I'm gonna have to come up with something different on that. So yeah, just check everything out on your rifle. I think that'd be a good number 3. And I'm glad I did anyway. For number 4, I'm thinking clean the bore. And I ran a bore scope down this rifle not long ago, and it was dirty in there, which that's fine. It looked like a rifle barrel. And I know I differ from a lot of people out there now. A lot of people now want the bore absolutely just spotless. No copper fouling, no carbon, no nothing, just pure spotless. Okay, that's not what I want. I want some fouling, because once your fouling builds up, fills in those low places, you hit an equilibrium, your gun shoots better. Or at least it does for me. Or let me rephrase that. It shoots more consistently. You can work up a load for an absolutely spotless bore, and it just shoots perfect. Okay, but the bore's not going to stay spotless every time you shoot a bullet. You're laying down copper, you're laying down fouling. Okay, if you're shooting a lot of rounds, it's going to change on you quick. If you let the copper build up and you reach an equilibrium, okay, it's going to stabilize, and you're going to hit a point after so many shots that you're consistent for, I'm going to throw some numbers out, but let's say after 80 shots. And most rifles will settle in after 20 or 30 rounds. I mean, a brand new spotless bore, but after you get around 80 shots through a rifle, it settles into that equilibrium. You're good for another 100 shots and your groups are fine. I mean, tiny groups, they're consistent. You clean the bore and your groups are going to open up, and then, you got to run some more rounds through there before it closes. If you scrub it and it's spotless, well, you're starting from scratch then. If you just knock back the copper a little bit and the carbon, well, you're not starting from scratch then. Shoot a couple fouling shots and it's right back to shooting like it was. Or at least that's me. That's the approach I take. That's what I've seen. What I would recommend is just know your rifle. I mean, bottom line. If you know with your rifle, it's, you clean it and the groups open up and you have to shoot 15 rounds before it really starts shooting again, just know that. And know how to clean your rifle. If you really scrub it, okay, your groups really open up then, and if you lightly hit it, how does that affect it? Just know your rifle. They're all different. What I've run across more often than not, though, and definitely on this rifle, I don't want to scrub it. So I'm just going to run a brush through here with some Hops number 9. I seen a few specks of rust in the barrel when I went down at the bore scope. And I do mean specks. I mean, we're okay here, I promise. So I'm just going to take a wire brush, run it through here, some Hops number 9. I'm going to run this brush through twice. And then we should be good on this one. I'll run a jag through with a couple patches and make sure it's dry. But we'll be starting off with the board that's ready to go. I won't have the carbon, but I'll still have the copper. And we're going to the range after this. Okay, we're just coming up with our preseason checklist. Make sure it's ready to go to the range so we're not wasting that range trip and all that good stuff, and it's ready to go for the season. I'll verify it at the range. I'll know for certain that it's shooting before season. And I will not clean this again after that range trip. I will not clean this bore again until after deer season. And then it'll be just to knock the carbon off. I'm not trying to get rid of the copper. Not off the few little shots I'm going to fire. The bore is nice and bright and shiny and clean on here, and I ran a wire brush through here 3 times. Twice would have been plenty. I had it soaked in hops number 9, and then I ran a wet patch through here with the jag, and it was also soaked in hops number 9, and then I ran dry patches through till they came out clean. That's what I'm doing. That's all I feel like I need to do. Now, I know cleaning barrels is its own huge topic, and I'm not even about to try and open that can of worms. Just, again, all I can say is just figure out what works for you. This works for me. But my bore is clean and I'm ready for season as far as that. Okay, number 5. What'd be a good number 5? I'm going to say ammo. Especially this year. Matter of fact, we should probably move ammo to number 1, but in no particular order on this list of importance. But don't think you're just going to run out to the store and get exactly what you want this year as far as hunting ammo. If you do, hey, I'm happy for you. But there's a good chance you're not going to be able to. And I'm good on this ammo now. Okay, I just loaded up 20 rounds today, and I can reload some more if I have to. But even with 0, and I'm guessing I'm going to spend 8 or 9 rounds 0 in it, and I should be good for this season. Again, if I need more, I can load them. But if you're doing factory ammo, just try to get some ammo just absolutely as quick as you can, and don't wait till the last second if you don't have some already put back. It's a tough year this year. Okay, that's number 5. Let's see, what are we on now? 6. Okay, 6. No, I got to 0 this rifle. So this is the perfect time to go ahead and get my numbers as far as where do I want to 0 it. Where do I want my point of impact to be at 100 yards when I 0 it. And for this rifle, I know my maximum point blank range is 296 yards with the bullet I'm using. I've already chronographed these. Since I've chronographed them, I know my velocity. With these bullets, I know the ballistic coefficient. And I went to shooterscalculator.com. It's a great site. I have no affiliation with them whatsoever. They're just great information. And they have a maximum point blank range calculator there that you just plug your numbers in, and it tells you where to 0 your scope at 100 yards. And for this one, for a 6-inch circle, I need to 0 my scope at 2.54 inches high at 100 yards. And then I'll be able to shoot out to 296 yards and hit a 6-inch diameter from the muzzle to 296 yards. So that's useful information to go ahead and just get right now and know where to 0 your rifle. If you don't have the velocities for your cartridges, if you hadn't chronographed it, I don't know what to tell you. I just did several videos on rifle barrels, slow rifle barrels. So you can go to the ammo manufacturer and for your particular bullets, and you can get an idea of about where you should be on velocity, but there's no guarantee. All right. And for all of us, our best bet, just go shoot. Don't think you can just shoot 300 yards if you haven't shot 300 yards just based on ballistics and trajectory tables and all that good stuff. I've actually shot this rifle 300 yards before though, and it's no problem. And again, I have the velocities and chronographed it, and more importantly, I verified it in the field. Even if you don't have the velocity, you don't have chronograph, none of that stuff, that's not a problem at all. Just go verify it in the field, shoot out to 200 or 300 yards, see where you're hitting at, and then you know. If you can't go somewhere and shoot 300 yards, because a lot of us, we don't have access to ranges where we can shoot that far. I'm not, you're on your own on that one, I'm sorry. If you've got a 270 Winchester, one of the fast flat shooting cartridges like that, 30-06, 150 grain, if you just set your scope 2 inches high at 100 yards, 2.5 inches high at 100 yards, you're going to be able to reach out to 250, no problem. And that's just a good conservative. You can probably go further, but that's a good conservative if you just don't know and you don't have access to a range to verify it. That'd be my suggestion anyway. So I think that covered it on our checklist as far as preseason. And the reason I really wanted to do an actual formal checklist and write this down is because I know I missed something. I always do. So if you think of anything I missed, I just add it at the bottom. And for some channel stuff here, I have been busy lately. I mean, really busy, and I apologize. I've been really behind on answering comments and emails and that type thing, and I hadn't even had time to even think about Facebook. So yeah, I do apologize for that, but I have read your questions and so forth, and I will be getting an answer out there at some point. It might be after deer season. And it seems like now I'm just getting further and further behind on questions and comments and so forth. The channel's growing, and that's a good thing. As me being a creator here, I obviously want to see it grow. The downside is I don't have as much time. There's so many more comments now and so forth that I just don't have time to answer every question and all. But I do read all of the comments, and I do try to get to them. And with how YouTube works on my end, with what I see, I'll look and it'll say, okay, comments. And it'll list all the comments for every video, unreplied to comments. All right, well, I'll read some great questions there, and then something will come up. I have to go outside for a minute, whatever. I'll come back 30 minutes later, an hour later, and those questions and comments that I had just read, they're buried. I've got so many new ones that YouTube just stacked on top of them that I know they're there, but now I got to get through all the other ones to get to those older ones, and I'm really behind right now. But anyway, just letting y'all know, and hey, I apologize for not getting to your questions, but I'm trying. Okay, I think we're ready for deer season here, at least with this rifle. And the FN, I've been working on it all year. It's definitely ready, but next time's just to get out to the range and zero the scope, and we'll see where we're at and go from there. All right, God bless, and have a good day.